the topic. As you know, actually, Tendered is a technology startup from Silicon Valley based in UAE and Saudi. And our goal is to digitize large businesses to make them more sustainable. Actually, before I start, I would like to ask you a question, and I will open the floor for you to answer. I read a question today while I'm coming to the office, and the question was, what one thing should everybody stop doing right now? So I'll open the floor for answers. Any volunteer?
Maybe Suhail, you could give us some context around the question.
I mean, free answers. So actually, I mentioned this question because it was an ad to stop smoking. And today is the World COPD Day, which is the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is related to asthma. And the ad was about stopping smoking because, I mean, COPD, which is asthma, kills more than 3 million people per year. And they are mentioning if we have a greener future and healthier future, we will contribute in reducing death because of the COPD or asthma. So I wanted to share with you this information because today is the World's COPD Day, and that's why I wanted to share with you. So I hope that you have this answer in mind. Anyways, so let's start with our discussion. Honestly, before the year of 2000, companies generally regarded green construction as interesting experiments, but unfeasible projects in the real business world. And since then, several factors have caused major shift in thinking. And one of these factors, honestly, is the creation of reliable building rating and performance measuring systems for new construction and renovation. Second, hundreds of international studies have proven the financial advantages for going green, and not only financial, all other advantages for going green and being healthier. And finally, green material and mechanical and technological systems have become more widely available and their prices went down in general. So the challenge that we are talking about today is the construction industry by its very nature is a bigger user for natural resources. And with the growing concerns over climate change and the finite nature of these resources, the nature resources, there is increasing pressure and demand on construction firms, on companies to reduce their environmental impact. And according to the Global Status Report that has been published recently, I think in 2017, they said that building and construction are responsible for around 39% of all carbon emissions in the world. And this is not only during operation, but also during manufacturing, during transportation, during construction, and even before that. And imagine that 11% of carbon emissions released also from the material itself. So carbon emissions released before the building or the infrastructure also contributes to about 11%. And they call it upfront carbon. And they are expecting that this will be responsible for half of the entire carbon footprint of a new construction between now and 2050. Now, for sure, I mean, we urgently need to act. We urgently need to unlock ways to build a healthier and more sustainable future. And this is actually, the objective of today's webinar is to highlight the need for adoption of sustainability initiatives, to talk and present successful examples of green construction, and try to understand how the government and the private sectors are working towards building a greener and sustainable future. Before starting and opening the discussion, I have few housekeeping items to cover. First, this webinar will be recorded and sent and shared with you later, and we would love to hear from you during today's discussion. So please, if you have any question, share your questions on the Q&A section on Zoom, and we will be answering your questions during the session or at the end of the session. And if we don't get to your question during the webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterward. So without further ado, I would like to start the discussion by asking His Excellency about his thoughts and views regarding green construction. And Your Excellency, why is it a necessity to adopt sustainable construction? And what are the directions and the initiatives that UAE is taking for this transition?
Well, Suhail, thank you so much for the getting us on the invitations to join this distinguished panel and very crucial and important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's really a pleasure and honor to be with you all today to discuss the sustainable green development and one of the key sectors that we're having in our economy, which is the construction sector. Since I'm coming from the foreign affairs and foreign trade background, let me just give some numbers on the sector. Construction and real estate sector in the UAE is a key player of our economy. The real estate sector's contribution to our GDP is currently prices is 5.2% for the year 2019, which has a value of almost 80.7 billion dirhams. And the sector is the second most attractive sector for foreign direct investment in the UAE, and its contribution to the total foreign direct investment reached almost 24.5% in 2019. As you mentioned, Suhail, in the introduction, the buildings are responsible for almost 39% of the global carbon emission. And of these emissions, construction alone accounts for almost 11% of about a third of the emission. This includes raw materials, transport, and the embedded carbon emissions in the whole sector. Here in the UAE, we really take sustainability very seriously, and for the last 15 years, we started with very tough and very rigid standardization when it comes to constructions and real estate sector. We're talking about Istidama standards in Abu Dhabi, the green standards in Dubai and Ras Al Khaimah and even in the federal level. And we do have an excellent model of sustainable cities which has been developed. I'm sure my colleague Abdulla is going to speak about Masdar City, but it's one of the flagship projects which initiated the whole construction, sustainable buildings and cities in the region. We have another successful model, which is the sustainable city in Dubai. And the model is now under replications into many other small cities within the UAE and even outside the UAE. For us in the UAE and the other aspect as well, we're developing a circular economy framework through our partnership with the World Economic Forum, the Scale 360 initiative, with the aim of ensuring that more sustainable use of our resources and most of the materials and inputs to any sectors are going to be fully utilized within the same sector. And through this initiative, which we're working with the WEF, we're aiming to reduce the waste in particular, which means that our infrastructure sector will need to design, construct, rebuild, and demolish buildings more efficient while reusing and recycling materials wherever possible. And in in the UAE, we're committed to green construction vision, and we have great hopes for what can be achieved. And I'm sure through today's discussion, we're going to have more shed on the light of the efforts and the practices that we have in the UAE and in the region. Again, it's my pleasure to join you, and thank you, Suhail.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the interesting information. Allow me to get back to you later after we hear for some questions, after we hear Mr. Abdullah's views also. So, Mr. Abdullah, as mentioned by His Excellency, that Masdar is one of the world's most sustainable urban development powered by renewable energy and sustainable city. What's the effect of Masdar City on economic, social, and environmental sustainability?
Thank you, Suhail. First of all, allow me to thank you and thank my distinguished colleagues on the panel for inviting me for this session. We at Masdar City, or maybe I'll start talking about the UAE being the umbrella of the whole thing. We believe in sustainability. Sustainability in the UAE is something embedded in every single activity we undertake. And when we mention sustainability here, we don't refer to it and look at it from only an environmental aspect, but we look at it from multiple aspects, be it social, environmental, of course, and economic. The UAE was one of the pioneers in the region, I would say, on addressing sustainability, of course, thanks to His Excellency Dr. Thani and the team back then who established the sustainability agenda for Abu Dhabi in particular. And the examples are, we have so many examples, say, to show how committed is the UAE towards sustainability, be it the signing to the Paris Agreement, having sustainability something embedded in the curriculums of our schools, establishing the wonderful initiative of having Masdar as a sustainable city, as well as His Excellency mentioned earlier, establishing sustainability ratings and programs that can basically address the issue on a more action manner. So that's at the federal and government level. We in Abu Dhabi have been at the forefront of that agenda. We believe our Masdar and Moderator group, we are the champion of the agenda of Abu Dhabi. And we started looking at sustainability differently. So we've addressed multiple clean energy and renewable projects initiatives. And today we're proud to be one of the major players around the world, and probably the most important and in terms of portfolio in the region. Now, in addition to this, there were the initiative of building a complete sustainable community and a research area called Masdar City. So zooming in more into Masdar City, it's a 6 square kilometer that is mandated by Abu Dhabi government to be developed in the most sustainable manner. Zooming in more into the construction industry, again, as His Excellency mentioned earlier, construction is something you cannot neglect. And when we look at development here in Masdar, we look at it from multiple angles, I would say. You cannot have a sustainable community if you don't have a sustainable building. And you cannot have a sustainable building if you don't have a sustainable master plan. So we at Masdar look at this in a way that complete sustainable communities need to be master planned in a sustainable way. And I'll give a small example of that. We at Masdar City consider ourselves one of the most transport-oriented development. The city is served by, as of today, 4 transportation modes, and the other 2 transportation modes are government initiatives, which is the metro and the light transport, which is the tram. And these are projects that are committed by Abu Dhabi government, and Masdar City will be among phase 1 of deploying. The way we look at the developments of the superstructure, if I may refer to them in the construction industry, we put the commitment on ourselves not to only be supporting the existing local rating system, which is Istidama, but we as well, our assets are rated by LEED, which is an international standard. And today we are proud to say that we are basically the proof of concept for Abu Dhabi government and for sustainable developments, because all our assets are commercially viable, and actually the occupancy rate of our assets is something like 97%. So we're almost fully leased here. In addition to that, this is a good response for the answers of having a sustainable development being costly. So Masdar today are positive in its IRRs in terms of development commerciality, in addition to livability. So when we look at this, we look at it as well from design, construction, and asset management afterwards. And each one of these stages are important to us. Now, the good news is changing the mindset in Abu Dhabi industry. And I'll talk about Abu Dhabi because we were based in Abu Dhabi. Today, we're very happy and pleased to see third-party developers, people who are willing to take that risk and develop sustainably in Masdar City. So we're proud of our partners here in Masdar City who came and commit and invested to develop sustainable developments. And big portion of these developments, or the cost of the developments, is basically lies with construction. So that's what I have to say about how sustainability and how Masdar is basically responding to the sustainability in a way to show that Abu Dhabi is at the forefront of deploying that.
Great, thank you. Very interesting. Thank you for the information about Masdar, and for sure I'll come back to you with some questions soon. So I'll move to Mr. Arjun, especially that we talk about technology, and many reports show that technology has become more available. My question to you, Mr. Arjun, today, how can technology unlock green construction?
Well, thank you for the question, Suhail, and thank you, His Excellency Dr. Thani and Mr. Abdulla, for joining us. It's a great pleasure. We are big believers in the Masdar initiative. That's why we chose Masdar as our regional headquarters, and we're really grateful to have this conversation with the wider audience today. When I think about technology and sustainability, I think there are two ways of thinking about it. Type one would be thinking about technology creating sustainable products and materials. So when we think about the construction, the manufacturing of sustainable or recycled concrete or low diesel emission generators. But I think there's another way of thinking about it, which is how can we use technology to run sustainable operations? And I think both are really important, but the second way can have more broader impact across the entire life cycle of a construction project. It can have impact on the planning stage, design stage, construction, and operation stage. The first step about using technology to build sustainable operations is thinking about all the different core functions in your model and starting to digitize those simple tasks. When you start digitizing simple tasks, you start creating these data banks across your organization, and then you're able to merge all your different data banks into a master database. And that's the first step to start measuring things more effectively. We believe measuring something is the first step towards managing it. And once you start measuring your efficiency, your consumption, your wastage, you're able to manage your operations a lot more sustainably and also contribute to your bottom line, as Mr. Abdulla mentioned earlier. So I think the first step is using technology and incorporating it into your operations, starting to manage your operations more efficiently and start tracking what can be saved, what can be recycled, and how can you actually get more out of every input into the model.
Thank you, Arjun. So you spoke about products and using technology to run sustainable operations. This is the two ways that you spoke about in terms of technology. Thank you for your answers, actually, and I really enjoyed, knowing more about this topic. My question to Your Excellency, Dr. Thani, for sure now, as a government, cannot move alone in this transition, to have this smooth transition without the contribution of the private sector. And my question to you, Your Excellency, how can the private sector contribute to UAE's transition towards a sustainable future and the adoption of a circular economy?
Thank you, Suhail, for this question. And I want to go back a few years ago, if you allow me, Abdulla, to mention Masdar as an example, when everyone was talking about sustainability and how the construction sector can be transformed and embedded the sustainability and the future looking at the sector, Masdar was one of the models which has been put on the table for the leaders to take it forward, and we've been successful in really applying the best practices in the field within one city. So it became a lab for the sustainability in all aspects. And from there, we start pushing the policy changing agenda and the strategies, as well as the expansion of the work which we managed to do it here in the UAE. We cannot do as a government and work alone. We have to tie up our relation and tie up our vision and our directions with the private sector, because they are one of the main contributors to the GDP, as well as contributor to the growth of the nation. If we look at the best practices which we brought to the country, it has not been initiated by governments, but it has been brought by R&Ds, which was done in companies, and they managed to bring those ideas and apply it here on a larger scale, and then it has been brought to the commercial phase of those ideas. So the model which we are working here in the UAE, it's always on PPPs, how we as governments work on with the private sector and moving forward with those ideas. If we mention the renewable energy projects, most of the projects that we have here have been applied the public-private partnership in those projects. Even moving forward, we do have some very distinguished experience from our private sector. If you allow me to mention here, for example, Majid Group. They do have a sustainability chief officer who is handling their sustainability practices, policies, agenda, and vision, and embed that in their daily operation and business plan. And at the same time, he ensured that the reflection of the direction of the governments. And Abu Dhabi Group, they start applying the renewable energy in their sites and their retailer areas. And same thing with the DB World and et cetera, et cetera. So private sector roles is very crucial. We cannot, as a government, do everything alone. We have to tie up our ideas, plans, and at the same time, we have to coordinate and discuss the way forward with the private sector. They can add a lot of value to the discussion.
And Your Excellency, do you think that, awareness is a challenge? Is something that we need to work on in a better way, or do you feel that people are already aware of this, the challenges, and at the same time, the green construction?
The awareness was challenging 15 or 20 years ago. Now we do have very well-educated generation, and the awareness is already there in the market among the construction people, the developers, the sellers, and the buyers. And it's going to be one of the main key on even shaping up the way that the business in the sector moving forward. I'll give you an example. Some of the areas, some of the cities around the world start having a lot of pressure from the buyers, that the first question that they ask about is what are the sustainability measures which has been taken into consideration while they're doing the constructions, and what are the sustainability practices within the building before they go ahead and buy it. So the behavior is going to for sure change the game in the sector. And without having this consideration by the developers and the construction companies, they will not be able to sustain their business moving forward, because the current generation, the next generation is going to put more and more pressure on this topic.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Excellency. Mr. Abdullah, I mean, I am asking the same question. I mean, how can we increase awareness and highlight the importance of sustainable building? I mean, from your experience being at Masdar City with a great example.
Thank you, Suhail. That's a good question. I think one of the things we actually started working on in the government is changing the mindset. And when I say changing the mindset, I don't only refer to the fact that today sustainability is embedded in our curriculums, but I refer to the mindset of consultants, mindset of contractors, accepting technology to be a tool that everyone can be benefiting from. And that can be done through different ways. For example, in the West, some of the countries give consultants, contractors, and developers some bonuses if they develop sustainably. For example, I'll throw a normal example. If you're allowed to develop a 10 floors building, you will be granted one more floor if you go in a more sustainable way. That's a bonus for any developer, but commercially it makes a big difference to them. Another thing which is as well feeds into the mindset change is basically the cost. Today, we need to start looking at sustainability as something in everything we do, and something that will be the future. In the future, governments are moving towards banning anything that won't be considered sustainable. So starting today and identifying and highlighting how important is this for consultants and developers is very crucial. I would add to that in Abu Dhabi, the Department of Municipalities and Transport, being the regulator of the sector, have undertook a very important step. They have formed a free workshops for all contractors and consultants to look at, to design and to construct in a more sustainable way. And these workshops have been going actually in the past 5-6 years. Since the inception, the Urban Planning Council at the time identified the Istidama program, and they've rolled it out since that time. And then there were issues with the suppliers, there were issues with the contractors and designers to understand it. And then they backed up that program by having a certificate. So in order to be rolled into this sustainability sector or program, you need to be certified. And if you are certified, then there will be a demand. Another constant and important step undertook by Abu Dhabi government, Abu Dhabi government took the commitment on itself to develop all government assets in a sustainable way, because they wanted to create this market for themselves. And that's been the case since 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Along with the certification, along with the awareness and workshop, along with Masdar and any other developer, as His Excellency was mentioning earlier, the Sustainable City in Dubai. Today, we are proud to see individuals, Emiratis, who goes and sign with consultants that are sustainable to develop a sustainable house, villas. So individuals are starting even getting the buy-in into the concept. I think one more thing we need to show, which is related to the cost, is we need to shed the light on the benefit of sustainability from a cost perspective. And the future, even if it's going to cost you 1 or 2% today to develop the asset, but you will be recovering that in the future, of course. And accepting technology. We are very proud and happy to have a company like Tender selecting Masdar as its home. And now we're looking forward to push some of the ideas myself and Arjun have discussed 2 weeks ago, maybe, to see how technology can be adopted and how we can collect data, utilizing the right technology to collect data and accordingly take the right decisions. So these are some of the ideas that Masdar have already undertook along with the Abu Dhabi government to showcase how important is sustainable development.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So talking about data, Mr. Arjun, so we know that we have the technology, we have the expertise. Do we have enough data to understand the environmental impact of the construction industry?
I think there is a lot of data, but I don't think we collect enough data. I think data is something we don't create. It's essentially a byproduct of a lot of the actions and operations. Collecting the right data at the right time is not something we do very efficiently right now, from our experience. I feel there's a huge opportunity there. I think that is the biggest opportunity. If you can, you hear things like creating a digital twin of a city or creating a digital twin of a project. I think the first step to create a real digital twin is to collect real-time data from all the different moving pieces in a project. And this can be done using a combination of two different technologies. One is sensors. There's so many different types of sensors that can bring in data. But the other type of technology, even though quite old, is still very important, which is humans and data entry. I think not all data can be collected using sensors, but I think you need to merge both different types of data into a model that can then help us make better decisions. And it's really interesting, the economic impact of this, because the ROI on these kind of initiatives are usually extremely high, but it takes some time before you actually start seeing any ROI, because there has to be a critical volume of data you collect. There has to be some time given for trial and error to do the analysis. But eventually, when the ROI starts coming in, it can be applied at a really wide scale. So the short answer is, I don't think we are collecting enough data currently, but I think there's a huge opportunity to collect data at pretty low cost and then get the economic upside later on in the future.
Perfect, perfect. And again, I really appreciate that there's, like a project is going on to collect more data and try to understand what's happening exactly and how we can influence the behaviors further. There is a question from one of the attendees. Your Excellency, will the government, through policy creation for sure, enforce the monitoring of emissions in the construction sites within UAE?
Well, the question should be directed to the Ministry of Environment because they're responsible about the file now. But it's not only the construction sector; it's the overall emission from the country, which is under monitoring now. We are in the process of designing the 50 years for the nation, and the environment and the emission has been taken in that aspect. And the monitoring for sure is going to be part of the agenda for the upcoming at least 10 years in the new cycle of business development of the country.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I'll go back to Mr. Abdullah and ask about Masdar City. I'm sure that you have learned a lot from this project. Can you share with us, some of the learnings so people can, learn more about what the key learnings from this project?
Thank you, Suhail. I think Masdar went through a lot, right? Because of the time Masdar City and Masdar as a company was announced was almost at the same time where Abu Dhabi adopted the sustainability agenda and launched their sustainability rating system. The biggest lesson we've learned is if you are serious about sustainable development, you need to start this from the beginning. This should be part of your vision. It's not something you would think halfway through. And another lesson we've learned, the methodologies and the technologies are there, but the difficult task is how you can put them together and let them work together, how you function them together on the right way, so you can you can at the end develop or deliver a sustainable development. So if we talk, for example, about design, you need to think of what are the design factors that might end up lowering your energy cost or consumption. I'll give a small example. For example, we say in Masdar, you're not allowed to have more than 15% of a window in a wall. Why? Because we know our environment is harsh and hot, and if you have bigger, then you will end up using or utilizing more energy to basically cool it down from the inside. So there are the methodologies and the factors are there. And what's good about Abu Dhabi system is there is something called sustainability calculator, and there is a basket full of credits. And they give you the flexibility to pick and choose from that basket what kind of credits and what kind of recipe you can come up with in order to be sustainable. So to me, these are the most two tangible, direct lessons we've learned here in Masdar. And again, you have to educate. You have to educate. We educate our partners, we educate our third-party developers who are willing to come and invest in Masdar City, and they've never been left alone. We've always worked with them from the inception of the project and walk them through the whole process together to make sure that they develop a sustainable development. And that's a lesson we've learned as well. Never leave your partners. Be always with them if you are the one who has the know-how.
So, thank you for the information. And that's why I saw, the building with minimal number of windows, and the direction of the window is against the sunlight, something like that, right? This is correct.
Correct, Suhail. If I may add to that, yes, we look not only at that's a design factor, but in a master planning factor, there is some wind corridors as well. It's being studied in a way that would dictate on you where the building should be located within the community.
Nice.
Another factor, Suhail, if I may, before I forgot, it's very important to be in a continuous learning journey about sustainability in construction and in design. And that's how Masdar is promoting itself. Today, we promote ourselves as a technology hub. And that technology hub is not only concerned with energy, it's concerned with energy. And today we're proud of hosting His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, which will end up accessing every single activity we do in life through technology. So having a continuous research and development is very crucial in such field, because the world is changing and you need to continuously changing to adapt and push that sustainability agenda forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much. For sure, I totally agree with you. Mr. Arjun, we spoke about international standards and the global business trends. Can you give us some examples? What are the global business trends on this topic, if you have some ideas about it?
Well, I want to kind of touch upon what Mr. Abdulla mentioned earlier, that
Sure.
Masdar started a long time ago. And when I was doing my master's in Canada, I actually did some research on Masdar in 2007, a really long time ago, when the project was announced and the grand vision was announced. And during, obviously, as Mr. Abdulla mentioned, a lot of things have happened since then. And I also noticed there wasn't too much talk about sustainability about 5-6 years ago globally, but over the last 5-6 years, the interest and the importance of this has increased a lot, not only in the business community, but also in the overall population and different governments. Maybe Greta Thunberg had something to do with this, with her activism, maybe not, but I see a lot of interest and a lot of awareness about this topic over the last couple of years. And if you look at the S&P 500 and how it has changed over the last 10 years, it's incredible. The highest valuations go to companies with the lowest carbon footprints. And just yesterday, Tesla, the first ever electric car manufacturer, was included in the S&P 500. That's a historical event. I think the overall community, governments, policy leaders, business leaders really do understand that the environment is actually quite expensive. It is not free. And we have to think about it in building out businesses, building out operations, building out communities in order to have a sustainable future. So I think it's a great time to invest in sustainability and think about sustainability and keep the momentum going.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Arjun. Your Excellency, we spoke about international standards. Where do you see our area, UAE, and this area in general, GCC, compared to the international standards in sustainability and green construction?
Well, thank you so much, Suhail, for this question. I think looking at the standards that we have in the construction sector, I believe what we did is only copy-paste the current international standards, especially the LEED standards, and make it much tougher on our own cities, which made it too difficult for some of the developers to apply or to adhere to those standards. And from my interaction lately with the local entities, we're reviewing, and after years of experience and the comments from the private sector, we're going to have a major review on those standards, so we can tailor it to our own weather condition, economic situation, as well as based on the experience which we built in the last few years. Are we doing good in terms of the LEED? Yes, we do have a huge number of hundreds of LEED certified buildings so far in the country. Is it going to be the norms? To be honest, Suhail, we have huge resistance from the developers that we have to have our own distinguished, tailored policies. I'm sure Abdulla might comment on this, because they're facing the same thing when it comes to the Istidama standards, and we have to have much flexible, tailored, customized standards for our own weather conditions.
Mr. Abdullah, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Suhail. Thank you, Your Excellency. I think Your Excellency's comment is absolutely correct and accurate. We are still considered at the inception of this field in Abu Dhabi in specific and in UAE in general. Developers, anyone who works in the commerciality umbrella would always be mindful about the cost. In addition, I would add that we've learned in Abu Dhabi government from the beginning, when they've launched Istidama as a program, it was a complete shock to the market, and that's a fact. And then the wise leadership of Abu Dhabi basically asked for a lowered and a lighter version, if I may call it, from Istidama program. You cannot just go harsh on the market at once. And then the thought was to ramp it up from there. Today, there's a lot of, and of course, they've undertook, as I mentioned earlier, the initiative that all government agencies and all government structures and assets should be sustainable. And in parallel of this, there were the efforts of including this into the curriculums in schools, working on the mindset of the next generations, in addition to the workshops and the certificate program launched back then. But today, I think, as His Excellency mentioned, we are in a much better position. And of course, Masdar is one of the fruit of that thinking and of these thoughts before. And here we are today. We have third-party developers who are willing to invest in a sustainable way, and they have that belief. But how fast and how big this can grow in the future, I think, as His Excellency mentioned, it will take some time.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Thank you, Your Excellency. My question to Mr. Arjun, what support do SMEs and startups need in order to bring innovation to the construction industry? I'm sure that this question also, is being asked by many SMEs and startups. What do you look for in terms of support and in terms of, from whether the government or whether from other, companies in the private sector? Mr. Arjun.
Well, I think if we were to speak about construction specifically, it feels like the construction industry has been left behind in a really radical time. Over the last 25 years, the productivity of the construction industry has reduced 27%, whereas the productivity of all the other industries have seen steep increases. So I think there's a lot of potential to disrupt and digitize the construction sector. And through this evolution of the sector, I think you will see a lot of sustainable operations and more productivity gains. And I think that's what excited us as Tender to join this sector. It was definitely self-initiated by our end. We wanted to be part of this change. And in terms of support, I think the most important catalyst would be highlighting the importance of thinking about sustainability. For example, let's say a company is having large operations and they notice a lot of waste, but they don't feel the need to actually do something about that because it doesn't affect their bottom line. But highlighting the importance of doing something about that would be, would make the company aware, okay, the community does care, the government does care, the private sector does care that we reduce overall waste production in our operations. And this creates a new problem for the company to solve. And then startups can organically form around that problem and start creating new solutions. So I think the biggest support would be just overall increased awareness and highlighting the importance of sustainability. And this will organically generate and support startups instead of providing explicit support.
Thank you, great. Any comment on that? I mean, we covered awareness. We all agree that awareness is something that we need to keep working on it and continuously. And this will for sure has very positive impact on this topic on construction industry and bring innovation to it. We have a question here. Based on Masdar experience, what does contribute more to the overall sustainability? Material, technology, post-construction operating, and what are the most suitable construction materials to contribute to sustainability? Maybe Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you, Suhail. I think it's a combination of all the above, I would say, but there's one forgotten factor, which is design. Design is very crucial and is very important in that matrix. And of course, post-delivery of the asset, on how you operate the asset, I'll add their technology. Why? Because you need to capture data, analyze them, and then take the right decision on how you can optimize your consumption, be it power or water or even waste collection. The materials usually supports the sustainability, sustainable development is in both ways. There is, for example, in Masdar, we do have something called the Master Community Declaration. This will be handed to any developer who wish to develop within Masdar City. And zooming in specifically on materials, there will be some materials that is prohibited, you cannot use, such as asbestos, for example. And of course, if you are using any other materials that you might purchase at a lower cost, maybe from a previous or maybe from somewhere else, construction site, and reuse them, for example, as part of your bitumen mix for the roads or as any other usage of the development, obviously you will gain more credits and you will be ranked more sustainable. But to answer the question, I think it's a combination of so many things, be it design, be it having an integrated system that collects data for the asset and its performance, be it using a sustainable or reusing some of the materials.
Great, thank you. So we have, yes, Your Excellency, you want to...
Yeah, can I add something? I know that my colleague Abdullah already covered most of the answers to the question, but I remember at the early stages of Masdar development, we were even pushing the behavior of the suppliers to change the way that their manufacture or prepare their raw materials to be transported to Masdar. And even we were measuring the emission of transportation from those suppliers until it reached to Masdar, so we can offset the emissions that comes to Masdar side. So it's the whole sustainability journey of the material until it reached to the sites, constructions. I'm sure applying the whole stuff which here Abdulla mentioned, and then after that, the circular economy concept where this waste are going to go after the site is ready for people to move in. So it's the whole experience, it's the whole journey which we're taking everyone through. We saw a major transformation on the businesses, sustainability of businesses. So many manufacturing. It's easy to mention here Emirates Steel, for example, one of the main supplier to the steel. They changed huge aspects of their business to adhere to the sustainability standards of Masdar. Same thing, we took this experience and apply it wherever we do and work locally and internationally.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Arjun, any comment on that?
Yep, I think His Excellency Dr. Thani and Mr. Abdulla highlighted that there are so many different factors when you look at the entire matrix of construction. So it's not going to be easy. I think you got to take a multifaceted approach, especially when you consider the size of the industry and what we expect in construction going forward. An interesting fact is, over the last 100 years, we created 230 billion square meters of real estate, right? But in the next 40 years, we will double it. As you know, when you think about that, it's like adding 13,000 homes every single day for the next 40 years. So the construction is a huge proponent of accommodating and supporting the overall population growth. And tackling it and thinking about climate change is going to take a multifaceted approach, all the way from design to logistics on the site to post-construction operations and building emissions. So we have to take a multifaceted approach and be patient and be very deliberate if we actually want to have any impact on the overall industry.
Great, thank you so much. Actually, we can take one more question. There is a question. Hi everyone, what are the sustainability strategies for the next 5 years in UAE, both existing and new constructions? Would like to...
I'm going to take that question. There are a couple of strategies that we're working for the upcoming 10 years to 50 years. One of them is the green economy or green sustainability strategy, which is up to 2030. And there are so many aspects on that strategy in terms of the green procurements, the practices, the awareness of people, the policies that we have to push the various sectors across the country, including the construction sector, to apply. And there is another climate change strategy, 2071, which has 3 main aspects: the greenhouse gas emissions reporting and MRBs, similar to the question which has been raised at the beginning of the session today. Then engagement of the private sector, how they're going to take a major role on that aspect, and the adaptation. We're not only focusing about the emission and how we're going to make sure that our society, our infrastructure is more resilient, and we're preparing the infrastructure and the country and the various economies and sectors toward more tough and unexpected extreme weather conditions. So there are so many strategies and policies are already adopted, and the teams, the relevant teams and entities are working on. And we, the governments, now through this designing of the upcoming 50 years, we're revising and combining and integrating, as well as synergizing those strategies, so we can have a clear path, including sustainability in the business and the 10 years plan from now.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thanks a lot for these views and information. Are you okay to take one last question? This is from Dupin. Most operators are under severe operational cost reductions, which could be deteriorate the objective of sustainability. Any thought to turn around this approach?
Well, I think what Mr. Balalaa mentioned earlier about the incentives, in some other countries, there are incentives. If you actually build according to these standards, you can get permission to build another floor. And you're inherently baking in the incentives into the construction project itself, the design stage, the tendering stage. I think those kinds of incentives can go a long way to offset some of the incremental cost a company might have to take on to adopt sustainable practices.
Great. I don't want to keep you longer. We have a question, a piece of advice that would like to give to a construction industry in Kerala. Not only Kerala, in Jordan and everywhere. So, Your Excellency.
Yeah, I will start on this. There are a couple of advices on this aspect. First one is usually construction sector is a labor-intensive sector, so we have to be ready for the upcoming transformations and reduction of labor. So real estates and constructions has to be ready to move toward more using more advanced technologies and fourth industrial revolution, because it's going to dominate the sector. The second advice for the constructions and the real estates, they should really start thinking about changing their business model. Continuing with the same business model before the pandemic has to be totally relooked, and they have to change the way that they're running the business, because just constructing buildings to sell to the various people will not be sustainable, and it won't be attractive to so many people. So we have to think about how we're going to link the constructions to industries, to clusters, to the developments of the new sectors which are going to come to the economy. So those are the two main advice, not only for Kerala, but as you mentioned, the whole construction sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Any comments, any take-home messages that you would like to mention before close the session? Mr. Abdullah, Mr. Arjun, Your Excellency.
Yeah, I will start, then I will pass to the colleagues. Sustainability and the take environment in consideration is a key aspect of the future design or planning or strategies. Unfortunately, there's so many colleagues at the region where they're still in the defend mode. They're thinking that sustainability and climate change is against oil and gas, which is absolutely not right, because we're seeing the transformations happening in the various sectors. And a few days ago, the Prime Minister of UK announced that by 2030 they will ban all oil and gas cars on their roads, which means that it's a reality which we have to start adopting and changing the business model that we have to adopt to those international movements, international change of running the business. So sustainability is a must, and it's going to come, and we have to be part of this wave. We should not be against it. Otherwise, it's going to destroy or we will be lagging behind for 4 years until we catch up the train. Luckily, we're here in the UAE. We started this journey, and we're moving toward this direction. But again, advice to everyone that we have to start thinking about adopting the sustainability and environmental aspects into our business.
Great. Thank you, Your Excellency. Arjun, Mr. Abdullah, Mr. Arjun.
I would add to what His Excellency Dr. Thani mentioned. Sustainability is the future, and again, sustainability is not something you would look at only from an environmental perspective. Sustainability is all over as a concept. Mindset, changing the mindset, because next generations needs to understand how important is sustainability. The last thing I would say is engage with the construction sector. Any policymaker needs to engage with the construction sector. No one knows the sector better than them. Developers, contractors, designers, consultants. They need to be engaged and consulted before any policy gets issued. Thank you, Suhail.
Thank you. Mr. Arjun.
Well, I think we talked a lot about data and mindset and awareness, and I just want to highlight those three key takeaways, even for myself. I think data is going to be really important in helping us measure our impact so that we can work towards a measurable goal. And I think we want the support of the community and the government to highlight how important it is, because sustainability and sustainable operations will be the future. I also want to thank His Excellency Dr. Thani and Mr. Abdulla for joining us today. It was really a pleasure to have this panel and hear your ideas and get inspired by your ideas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arjun. So at the end, I would like to really thank Your Excellency, Dr. Thani, Mr. Abdullah, and Mr. Arjun. It was a great honor to have you in this discussion and this webinar. I'm sure this is not the last one. I mean, it is, again, one of a series of webinars that we will cover the technology and the green construction topic again and again. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the discussion. I hope that you had the same. And before, for sure, I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar and for the great questions that we also got from them. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Thank you, Mr. Arjun. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. Before I close, the winner of the iPhone will be announced and shared after the email. After the webinar by email. So thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoyed today's webinar and the discussion. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to announce one thing. We also, for the number of guests, we felt very inspired by the interest in this topic. So based on the number of guests, we have decided to plant 100 trees per person who attended this webinar, just to kick off our efforts as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arjun. I really appreciate this initiative, and we'll do that. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.